Hello everyone, this video is not sponsored. This is the Lumibricks Luna Cottage set, which I bought from Lumibricks.com. It retails for approximately $120 US. I got mine for a little bit over $100 because of discounts that you can get there. But this has 2,846 pieces. It comes with 44 printed parts, 14 LEDs, and sound. It's intended to be a getaway place to have some spiritual healing, or at the very least to have some chill vibes. You got a spot for a sound bath out here. Lots of really nice prints, including glass parts. I will demonstrate the lights with every light in my room turned off in the studio here, but I will also demonstrate the sound, which is a very interesting thing, the way that they've done it. It is configurable. This by default is going to be powered by three double A batteries that you would put into here, but I'm just using a USB battery, external battery pack here because it's just much more convenient for me. The base here is 32 by 38, I believe it was 32 by 38. So not quite the standard square size, just a little bit larger than that. And the build for this is pretty phenomenal. Like the tightness and the fit and finish of so many of the parts is just really, really satisfying. Even the side of the small slanted roof over here, the way that this side trim is actually shaped to really fill up just the tiny little gaps that are slightly inconsistent along the side was really, really nice to see. And most of the wiring in this was relatively easy to put into place. I didn't have too many spots that were difficult or required a little bit of extra handiwork with the included tweezers or anything like that. So just in general, I feel like this is a good mass market product. To get access to the interior, you can simply lift off this small bit of roof and lift off this bit of roof here. And they also have a pull-out section right here with some details, as you can see, and a slide-out section over here as well. Notice, however, that unlike with most Lumibricks sets, this does not have a fully opening back or side even. I guess technically you could open up this very beautiful printed piece right here. You could pop that open just to get a little peek inside, but it doesn't count, right? It's not quite the way they normally do things. You can, however, take the entire upper floor off for easier access to the ground floor. Here's a peek inside the interior of the upper floor. This is very, very much a cat fan's home, as are many of the spaces from Lumibricks. They have a lot of references to cats that they do. This is an entire like cat gym over here, or cat castle, I was calling it. Just a whole bunch of spots where you can put a cat around there. I pose them, in different spots, having fun, climbing all around. So it's kind of an equal split between accommodation for the animal and for the human. Well, for the four-legged animal and the two-legged animal. And you can also see the bedspread there has a cat print on it. And unfortunately, you just can't see the back wall. Now, technically, you can take this bit of the roof off, but it's just really, really wedged in there in the kind of around and behind the small outcropping there. And just it isn't convenient. This is most of the time what you're going to be seeing, with the exception of just the door. You can kind of peek through the door there to see the prints on the floor just a little bit better, but ultimately this is most of what you're going to be getting for realistic and reasonable access. Now again, you can remove this whole upper floor and it separates right here where the electricity went through. There are a couple of lights, however, that provide light for the interior space down here in the ground floor. So you're not going to see that when these are removed. And this also sends the light up into, or the electricity up into the upper areas. But this is really good for convenient access. And as you can see, this is a pretty open space down here. Lots of open floor. Obviously you have the nice print right there, but it's not too crowded. I do have the two wall elements taken out. I will show you just briefly what that looks like with those together, in addition to showing you the small details. But accommodation, honestly, for minifigures is a little bit lacking here because they do not have a lot of, or they don't have many at all, of studs in the ground. And also, like, the seating is just that over there, which is kind of like a small sofa, and it's not going to be able to accommodate the Lumibricks style minifigures, or just about anybody's minifigures, just because of the shape of it. So this is a very nice looking space with great little details. I love the little herb wall over here with the roots that are drying, and you can see just a little kind of like probably a driftwood sculpture sort of thing right there, and easy access to the door, which opens back here. I really like this spiral staircase as well, with the suggestion of the knurled wood. So here's the wall, the sliding section of wall that I took out. So a bunch of crystals there in a nice bookcase. So that fits over here, which is just an interesting thing to have it slide in like that. And that would be how that would fit in there. And then at the other side, you have this, which has some prints in it as well. I do feel like this is intended to be something that is grounded. You know, it's not intended to represent absolute total fantasy. Yes, it does say witch's kitchen over there, but I think that's more kind of just the vibe. You know, I don't think they're trying to suggest that this space is actually occupied by a real witch. You know, it's just kind of, you know, folks who follow some of the different alternative medicines and, you know, just using tarot cards and things like that. I think that's what they're going for here. But of course, use your imagination and come to your own conclusions there. I do really feel like this is intended to be something believable. And it is even in the theme that represents something that should be kind of grounded from a certain perspective. All I'm saying is I'm not judging. I do very much like these spaces. I do like the details that are in here, and I feel like the vibe that they're going for has been captured accurately and comprehensively. We'll take a closer look at the minifigures later, but I believe that this is the resident healer, or just the resident of the space, and this is the cat. So these two have probably the names of both of these are on the deed to the place, because look, there's even a marble statue to the cat out here. Beautiful prints here, and this actually has a small mechanism just to rotate it around. I kind of wish that the actuator, this right here, was farther away. You know, I do appreciate that. You know, I'm touching something, but something else is moving, but I wish that this was just farther away. But it is done very well. It's smooth in here. I didn't have to worry about getting the alignment of the gears just right. Everything kind of self-aligned in that sense. Lots of mushrooms up here, little roots that are kind of sticking up, different prints. So you've got like one print here, different print right there, different colors and such. Yeah, this I think is done really nice, but the gazebo is a big surprise to me, because usually gazebos are a little bit fragile, you know, when built out of brick type pieces. This one is not at all. The build for it is pretty straightforward. It does have some repetition involved in it, which is no surprise. You know, you want that. You want the radial symmetry, and it has that, but it just holds itself together exceptionally well. And when attaching, you know, after building this structure and then attaching it to the base, there was just no issue there whatsoever. Everything went together nicely. And this represents a gong. The power distribution board is over here. There are some wires that stick out, but this is the speaker, interestingly. So that is strange that they intend for that to be attached to the outside like that. I wish that was kind of tucked away a little bit better. And then over here is the actual sound controller. So I'm going to move the microphone and give you some little samples of the sound, but I can't give you too much, unfortunately, because the main piece of sound engineering that's recorded into the little memory chip here is actually it's registered as a tune on YouTube, and therefore if I play more than a few seconds of it, I get a copyright thing on YouTube, and then the agency that, you know, is in charge of managing that IP gets control of my entire video. So I can only show you just, or have you listen to just a few seconds. The sound fidelity is very legit, you know, especially for just such small electronics. I'm very satisfied with that. You know, it's not too tinny. There's actually some bass and some mid-range in it, but that's not the only sound. The other sounds, unfortunately, are way too loud. Let me give you some samples. Okay, so the first one is an actual professionally recorded healing scape or healing kind of audio scape. The second one is, just a nice recording with some birds. You get water flowing, and then for some reason, someone walking around on very crunchy ground with the microphone right by their feet. The latter three are entirely too loud, honestly. The bird chirps, although nicely recorded, truly pierce directly into my skull. So I strongly recommend having that. If you like those sounds, I recommend having the speaker facing away from you when you're playing it. Also, I would be concerned a little bit about pets in your space because some of those frequencies might be a little bit painful to some of them. However, if you don't like the sounds or you want to do anything about it, the beauty of this set, the true beauty of this system, in fact, that Lumibricks has integrated here, is that is a USB-C connector that allows you to connect to, basically, this is a flash drive. It stores files on it. Those 4 sounds are files, and you can put your own on there instead. So this is not used for power, it's used for data. That last tune sounds a little bit buzzy, especially in the opening movement of it. And part of that comes down to the compression that I used to get it on there. So I definitely need to kind of experiment with that. They only give you 8 megabytes of space on the included chip, which is not very much. The main the first tune that's actually, with a person in it and everything, is 4 minutes long, and it's fairly high quality on there. And then the others are 30 seconds, and 18 seconds that just loop. And the chip will just play based on the order that they're, I think like alphabetical order on there. Keep in mind a few things. First of all, if you want to use the maximum space there for putting your custom tunes on there, be sure to back up the tunes or the sounds that are already here. Otherwise, you won't be able to get them back. I don't think Lumibricks has put them online anywhere. So, especially that first one, you want to keep that. Be sure to copy it to your computer safely. Maybe copy it in a couple of spaces to make sure you don't accidentally delete it. Secondly, many Lumibricks sets come with this, which is just a little USB-A to USB-C adapter. However, this is not a data cable. It is a power cable only. So this would not allow me to connect, to my computer. So just keep that in mind. And other than that, it plays MP3s. It might be able to play other types of tunes as well, other types of files, but you're just going to be limited in the total amount of space. So just be mindful of that. And I would recommend experimenting. Also know that it will pretty much play always at a certain volume, just a static volume. It does not have any volume equalization in it or leveling. So if your tune is loud, it's going to come out loud. And if it's too loud for you, you're going to need to go in and manually edit that sound to make it quieter in the sound file itself. Here's what the set looks like with all lights in the room turned off as promised. And like I said, really, really nice glow, especially from these globe elements that they've got around here. Just overall, I think the amount of light is pretty perfect. I'm very happy with that. Surprised that there isn't specifically a light in the gazebo, but you can kind of change the angle of the light over on the left-hand side here to shine into the gazebo just a little bit better. The white lights for the interior and for accents are all kind of cool, not too far into the tungsten range, but cool. Really, really nice. This side light right here does get some of the glow coming from the inside, as well as it has its own light that kind of points just directly towards it. You can see just a little bit of glow coming from the small side structure as well, and some light coming through the doors on the back, which thankfully have the little window bits on them, and even the window over here on this side. So if I move the tree out of the way, which is a little bit loose, but not a big deal, you can see this up here with the nice brake disc element that's recolored into lavender. And then just really quickly taking a peek at the interior just to give you just an idea of the overall level of illumination for this whole thing. If I don't take the whole thing apart, but I just show you, what it looks like without changing anything else. So yeah, this again feels good. It's not blinding me. Nothing looks too dim. I can definitely see the interior details just fine. It feels well balanced. Here's a really quick closer look at the minifigures. There's actually a second version of this hair that's included. It was evidently just an earlier version of the production. It was a little bit too springy, didn't have enough give to properly fit around the body. So you just get a little spare there. It might work with some other brands' figures, but otherwise I think that these are done pretty nicely, and I think that they are appropriate. I'm assuming that this is like a visitor to the space, but I could be mistaken on that. And of course, you're always free to use your own imagination and come up with your own stories. Last and least, each of these sets comes with a random one of these cards. This is clear plastic with the nice kind of holographic laser style of detail on the inside, and each one represents a different astrological sign. When I saw these, they showed all of them on their marketing page on the main website. I thought that you get a whole deck, but you don't. You only get a random one per set, which is unfortunate because probably, anybody who cares about these things would want to have their own astrological sign, or astrological sign of, somebody that they're thinking of or they want to gift this to, but they don't give you that option. They don't give you any option to order these individually. And that, I think, is a mistake, because these are kind of awesome. And some people would really appreciate being able to either get the full set or at least the specific one that they want. I only took one critical note while building this. There was just an area on the inside where you place one of those globe type elements up against a wall, and it just fits a little bit tightly on one of the interesting small builds of interior furniture. That was just absolutely the worst thing about the build process, other than the typical issue that I personally am always calling out with various brands of too many pieces needing to be open at once. I'm perfectly fine with the level of difficulty of these sets most of the time. Every once in a while they're getting a little bit too difficult or a little bit too fancy with the requirements for routing wires, especially underneath tiles, having to bend them multiple times. This does not have that problem, like one or two bends at most, but it wasn't too difficult. But I really think that most people do not have a tremendous amount of building space the way that I do. And even those that do would prefer not to have hundreds of pieces, what seems like hundreds of pieces open from 5 or 6 different bags. And anybody who wants that additional complexity, who wants to sort through tons and tons of pieces every single time that they need to approach a step, can open up as many bags as they want if Lumibricks kind of gets caught up with some other manufacturers like Real Bricks and has you open just one single bag of parts at once. It's something that is perfectly feasible, that can be done. It can be arranged that way, and it works great. Even for gigantic and really, really complex builds, you can make it simpler for people who just don't have all the space in the world and or don't want things to be as complex and as difficult as possible, and to take as much time, to even just find parts as possible. So Lumibricks could definitely improve in that aspect of the build process. Otherwise, their designs are definitely getting better over time, significantly better. I feel like whoever specifically designed this, whoever's the lead designer of the physical product here, is really, really good at what they do. They got their angles really well. Again, fit and finish is very, very excellent. The mechanism here works well. Integration with the electronics is excellent, with the exception of just, like I said, the speaker being on the outside here. So if you want to push this right up against something else, that needs to be relocated. But otherwise, really, really good things, really good forward movement, trying new things. Lumibricks is continuing to experiment. This one doesn't open up as much around the back as usual, but I feel like it does open up enough, and I feel like the compromises make sense for the structure that's here and the level of variety of the architectural elements, the fact that this is placed in at a diagonal back in the corner, and it just makes it different. You know, the spiral staircase on the outside. So many of these things are nice that they're trying. So I definitely don't want to discourage their process and their progress that we've seen from them very, very rapidly over just the past couple of years. Thank you for watching. Hope that this was of some value to you, brought some interesting information or at least entertainment to you. If you're interested in making a purchase of anything that you see me cover, please consider using one of my affiliate links. These videos are not sponsored, but if you do use an affiliate link, I might get a small commission back, just a small percentage of that sale. Also, with some of those, you'll see in the video description, some of them have a discount that's automatically applied to you if you don't have an account already. But just, shop around, search around, make sure that you get the best deal for yourself first and foremost. So thank you very much for your time. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you again soon.